Hi, I'm Tiffany Millette, and I am the reading first grade teacher here at Cole Valley Elementary School. I was thrilled to get hired into first grade because to me, first grade is just a magical year in school. I look at our job as teachers to be one of growing a child to be a lifelong learner. And I feel like preschool and kindergarten just completely lays the solid foundation for our kids, and then in first grade we're ready to take that and just start to grow. And every year as I'm watching kids coming in and taking them from, okay, I know that a letter makes a sound, to by the end of the year being able to read everything in the environment around them and watching their faces light up, I look at it as nothing but absolutely magical, and I'm just so thankful that I get to be a part of this process. I love the model we have here at Cole Valley because we really do get to teach to our passions, and the fact that I get to spend my time here really focused on learning best practices for teaching reading and just perfecting my reading teaching over and over is just something I absolutely love. So in first grade, the kids have a reading teacher, and I get to cover the reading and the social studies aspect. We have a writing teacher, and she's going to cover handwriting and grammar and spelling and all the different genres of writing. And then we have a math teacher who's also going to be covering the sciences. Here at Cole Valley Christian, a day in the life of a first grader might look a little bit different than it would at a school that doesn't have departmentalized learning. We know from all of the research that kids work best when they can work at their own level. We do have whole group lessons because we believe there are concepts all of the kids need to be introduced at, but they might need to work on them and practice them in different ways. And so the model that we have chosen allows us to do a short whole group lesson time, and then it gives us a lot of time where kids get to work within small groups, and during that time teachers can pull small groups and individual students to challenge them if they need to go a little bit beyond what the concept that was presented, to just reinforce what we've presented, or to give them that little extra push that they need to solidify the understanding of the concepts. We do this throughout the day by the kids rotating through the different classrooms. So, for example, a first grader is going to come to school and start out in their homeroom classroom. They are assigned a homeroom teacher. They get to be with them for 20 minutes or so in the morning and do all of the normal introductory things you do in a classroom, and they stay with their homeroom teacher for their first block. So if they're in my class, they would come in to me for 20 minutes and then stay with me for reading. I love our schedule because we have built in some very natural breaks for kids because we know they need a lot of movement. As soon as they're done with their first block, they get to have snack in the classroom and then go outside for recess. When they come back in, my class might go to the writing teacher next, where they're going to get to be for 70 minutes with the writing teacher. After that, they get to go to specials, one of their favorite parts of the day. In first grade, they get to rotate between music, PE, and STEAM, and they're there for a half an hour each day, Monday through Thursday. After STEAM, they come back into the classroom where with their homeroom teacher, again, they get to have a 40-minute Bible block. We get to introduce new Bible stories, and our Bible is not limited to that 40 minutes of the day. We get to incorporate it throughout the entire day, but that's when we get to have that really targeted time and prayer time with our children. After that, we have lunch and recess. We eat in our classrooms. We go back outside for recess, and they have a nice long break, and then when they come in, they might go to the math teacher, where they get to spend 70 minutes in math doing all of their amazing math exploratory work. And then after that, they get to come back to me, the homeroom teacher, for the last half an hour of the day, where we get to do things such as Star of the Week, where we're celebrating our special students. Maybe we have a little art project we're trying to finish up, or whatever we haven't got finished. And then we get to pack up and walk on out to be picked up by our moms and dads. In math, we're really working on developing the number sense for a child. So really understanding not only to be able to write and to recognize and read numbers, but what do those numbers mean? What is a 7? A 7, we know they might know what it looks like and how to write it, but a 7 is also made up of a lot of different parts. It's 6 and 1, it's 3 and 4, and it's finding out all of these different partnerships and relationships that go into what a number is. So they talk about numbers, they do activities about numbers and explore them. In math, in first grade, they also hit measurement and shapes and time and money. There's a lot of focus on addition and subtraction fact families and all of the different relationships between the numbers, learning to count, read, and explore numbers from 0 up to 120, and for some of them beyond because they're ready to move beyond that. In writing, they get to really delve into all the different types of writing. Personal narrative, where they get to write about things that they have experienced personally. They get to do how-to writing. How do I bake a Thanksgiving turkey? How would I make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? And going through organizing their thoughts in a sequential way and getting them down on paper to communicate to other people. They do fictional pieces where they get to just use their imagination and make up stories, and also nonfiction pieces where they get to learn about how do I find information about a topic and then create something to show that. And a big thing in first grade that we work on are animal reports, where we tie that in with science and math, and they get to create animals and biomes. In reading, we get to read about the animals, and then in writing, they get to take everything they know and put it together into an animal report. In first grade reading, we know there's a lot of letter combinations and chunks that we haven't got to cover in kindergarten, so that is still a big emphasis with first grade. We also spend a lot of time working on skills and strategies for what do kids do when they get to a word that they don't know. We spend a lot of time on reading fluency, which means, can I read in a way that sounds natural, like I'm talking? Because when a child can learn to read fluently that way, it allows their brain to better understand what they are reading. In addition, we talk about all the different genres of reading. We have our nonfiction books, we have our fiction books, we have our poetry books, and we explore all of the different ones so that the kids can know the difference between them. We get to get into story elements in first grade. We learn about characters and setting, the plot. And the really neat thing is getting to see how all the things that they're learning and reading completely tie into what they're doing in writing. So if we're learning about plot in first grade and we're learning about all of our story elements, then the writing teacher gets to take those, and now these kids get to apply what they've learned in reading into writing their own story with characters and setting and a plot. Of the 5 essential questions at our school, the number 1 is, what do we know about our students? That's a big focus at the beginning of first grade, is really getting to know our students and our families, their interests, what really motivates them. And we like to take those interests and come up with things that are really going to excite the kids. Things that we've done in the past are we do big celebrations in first grade. We think that there's a lot to be celebrated. For example, we celebrate the 100th day of school. In reading, we might read 100 books collectively that day. In math, they might string 100 Fruit Loops into a string. In writing class, they might write about what they would do if they had $100, or what do they think they're going to be like when they're 100 years old. On St. Patrick's Day, we like to have a green feast and learn about the history of St. Patrick's Day and how that ties into Christianity. Something else we've done in the past is a teddy bear tea, where kids get to bring teddy bears to school with them. They get to read books to their teddy bears. They get to write stories about their teddy bears. And they get to use blocks to measure how big their teddy bears are. Put teddy bears together and get to compare them and tell the similarities and differences, and then culminate that celebration by going into a teddy bear tea where they get to have a little tea with their teddy bears. We do a lot of fun field trips in first grade. We've gone to places such as the Botanical Gardens, the Boise Zoo, the Art Museum, the fire station. Whatever ties in with our social studies and science curriculum that year, whatever units we decide as a grade to put together, we try to find the field trips that are going to make it a little bit more real to our students. In first grade Bible, because we do have such an emphasis on building foundations, we really get to cover a lot of the Old Testament stories, giving the first graders a big picture of God's story from the fall of mankind in the garden all the way up to Jesus, and how everything that happened in the Old Testament all works together to point us to Jesus. It's also so fun being in a Christian school, how we get to take these what we've called Bible stories, and get to show the kids that they're real, and how we can apply the things that some of these people that we're learning about in their lives, how we can apply them to our lives. Along with building community at the beginning of the year, one of our main focuses is really practicing all of our routines and procedures in all of our classrooms, down to how we walk in the halls and how we walk outside, but especially how within the classroom it's going to operate. We practice those procedures over and over and over again because we really want the kids to be clear on what it is that they are expected to do. And once we have devoted the time to doing that, they really do become independent workers in our classrooms, which frees us up to be able to pull small groups and to really work with individuals. Part of enforcing the rules really does come along with knowing each child individually, how some of them just need a little look, how some of them just need that extra soft reminder, how some of them might need to be pulled aside and talked to individually, and how we deal with the different kids that might be struggling to follow the rules is going to completely differ on what we have learned about that child. Ultimately, the goal of any correction we're doing with any child is to just help them grow, to let them know that they are loved, to let them know that they are fearfully and wonderfully made by God, and that we are just here to support them and help them grow in all of the gifts that He has given them. A big question we get is, how do I know what's going on in my child's first grade classroom, or what are my expectations at home? Every Friday, we will be sending home through email and through a hard copy a week at a glance page, which is going to let you know what is being taught the next week in your child's classes in all 3 subjects, and what major events are coming up, what things we might need to be preparing for. In addition, your child will be bringing home a Friday folder. Any work for the week, any flyers, we don't send things home on a daily basis. It all gets saved up and it goes home on Friday in that Friday folder. So if there's lunch order forms that are coming home, if there's field trip information, you always know where to look for it. Homework in first grade is meant to reinforce the really important concepts that we're learning. In reading, it's going to be the child bringing home a book at their level to read, because we know how important it is for a child to constantly read or be read to. In writing, it might be some handwriting practice or some spelling words to practice. And in math, it might be a number page to just reinforce the number concepts that they are working on. We know that as parents, you're very busy and your time is valuable. So all of the projects that we work on in school, we try to do them all in class. There may be a situation where your child has been absent or been sick, and we might send something home and ask you to help them to finish it. But for the most part, we like to see them go through the process in class and get to see them do the work and respect your time. We're so excited that you are prayerfully considering Cole Valley for your child. If this is where you choose to place your child, we look forward to partnering with you and helping your child grow as a whole child, academically, socially, and emotionally, and most importantly, spiritually. We hope you feel comfortable to ask any other questions that you might have. We look forward to getting to know you better and getting to partner with you in your child's education.